Hi everyone, you're joining me for a special edition of the Adapt series where we're going to be doing an industry spotlight. In today's episode, we're going to be looking at the e-commerce and logistics industry, and we're joined by Sriram Sridhar, the CEO of Shipment.com. Sriram's going to be talking to us about how the e-commerce and logistics industry is dealing with the crisis and what changes they had to make to cope and adapt. I learned a lot from Sriram during our conversation, and I'm sure that you will as well. Let's dive in. Hi, Shri, how are you doing?
Great, or at least as good as I could be considering the situation around us, right?
Of
I hope
course,
you're
yeah.
doing well too.
Yes, I am. You were just telling me that you're in Chennai as well, so we're all in
Mhm.
lockdown here. No movement whatsoever. Do you have people at home with you, or?
Just my wife with me here, so it's been pretty lonely. That's the best way to put it.
I guess so, yes. Um, okay, to get started, I guess the first question would be, could you tell us a little bit more about lateshipment.com? What is it you guys do, and where are you coming from in terms of your
Mhm,
understanding of the e-commerce and logistics industry?
mhm. Shipment.com is a SaaS technology company. We work with businesses around the world, from pretty much any geography you can think of: US, Canada, even parts of Asia, Africa, etc.
Mhm.
We occupy a very unique position in the technology industry. Even though we call ourselves a tech company, we work in a niche space, which is the post-purchase experience space. We help businesses track their shipments while they're in transit after a shipment has left their warehouse, right up until the point it reaches the customer and it's been invoiced back to the business, right? We collect about 130 data points per shipment we track, and we've tracked more than 100 million packages or shipments at this point, right?
Okay.
So that leaves us in a very, very unique position, where we hold possibly among the largest data sets when it comes to tracking and shipping related data, right? And we get to always see what a business is doing, what's happening behind the scenes as far as their shipping volumes, as far as customer issues raised in the post-purchase space, etc. So that gives us unique perspective during this situation where we've seen tremendous changes happen in the back end for many businesses, and the way they react to it has really offered us a lot of insight into what's unraveling around
Of
us.
course, of course, and we will touch upon that a bit during our discussion.
Mhm.
I think an important way to get broach this topic is how has this situation affected your business? Like the pandemic itself, has it affected the way you're doing business? How has it affected your industry?
Absolutely. I mean, we are not unique in this regard. Just like every other business out there, the situation, how quickly it developed, has certainly had an impact. The easiest way to share what that impact has been is maybe to divide what we do into two halves, right? So one is we bring accountability to shipping carriers. We identify where things have gone wrong, be it a late delivery or maybe a billing error, and then help recover that part of the money they paid to shipping carriers, right? That part of it, with the situation developing, that's pretty much all the guarantees, all the money back claims, etc., have been suspended by shipping carriers. That was like a very major part of our business. So now
Mhm.
we've started moving away from that, right? The other part of what we do is we monitor shipments while they're in transit, and we identify issues with potential issues with shipments that are en route to customers.
Okay.
And that obviously has blown up quite a bit with the focus on e-commerce, with the amount of shipments that are currently in transit, and also the tremendous strain that shipping carriers have. So in fact, customers recognize us to be one of the only resources they have to give them better insight and control over their shipments in transit. So they've been reaching out to us extensively, and we've been positioning ourselves to help them better. In fact, way we've looked at it, there have been three phases as far as the situation is concerned, right? Acceptance. I mean, early in, we had to come to terms with the scenario. We
Yeah.
knew things had changed. The sooner we accepted it, the quicker we were able to get to the phase of adapting to it, right? The second part of it was adaptability. I mean, obviously, being a SaaS company, being a tech company, relatively young, left us in a good position to easily recognize what customers are expecting from us, and also quickly be able to cater to those customers' needs,
Of
right?
course, yeah.
And finally, that brings us to the agility part of it, which is what enabled us to pretty much take a look at the situation just like how I described, and start helping out customers extensively in the post-purchase space, keeping track of their shipments in transit.
So acceptance, adaptability, and agility.
That's been the mantra so far, and I'm really thankful for everybody on our team to have been able to rally together and be push ourselves to a position where we are offering even more value to customers through this.
Definitely. This whole situation has kind of brought about a big change, and it's setting a new normal for everyone who is buckling down to kind of weather this through for a couple of months at least. Your customers, you were saying earlier, they range from a completely different industries all over the world. How would you be able to shed some light on how specific industries are doing in this crisis?
Absolutely. Again, with regards to how the situation has affected businesses, there's been a wide range of responses, right? The way I see it, when we look at things internally, we've been dividing businesses into two categories, right?
Okay.
Businesses that deal with essential commodities, businesses that we deal with customer needs, rather, they have seen an explosion in order volumes. And in fact, some businesses that sell essential goods, the orders have been through the roof, right? Their problem has been keeping things in stock.
Of
On the
course.
other side, things that we may consider to be wants, right? Non-essential goods, maybe fashion or jewelry or gifts, or etc. Those are categories which are seeing a huge hit in terms of what their order volumes look like. And I mean, we've had customers call in and ask us, hey, we're seeing our shipping volume go down by about 85 or 90%. Is this the normal, or are we doing any better or worse? And that is sadly been the reality for certain business categories, right?
Yeah.
One other perspective we've been seeing things from the background has also been in the way businesses have been reacting to the situation. What I mean by that, we work with a wide variety of businesses, large shippers, big box retail who ship millions of packages out, right down to smaller mom and pop stores where their sales are mostly through foot traffic, right?
Yeah.
So across the spectrum, we are seeing certain businesses who've been able to quickly pivot to set up things to cater from an e-commerce perspective, right? So even businesses which are traditionally brick and mortar retail dependent on foot traffic, some of them have been able to foresee the situation quite early and to transform themselves to cater to people online. And especially if they have a strong brand identity, their shipping volumes have actually gone up, right? Like people who used to stepping in, buying from them have started ordering from them online. And that's really set the better businesses apart, or the more agile businesses apart. And the same holds for also the way they're dealing with the situation per se, in terms of, say, some businesses which are better prepared, manage to understand their inventory better, keep the right things in stock. And they still continue servicing customers who have a need for essential commodities, right? A similar kind of business which maybe did not act as quickly or did not make the right decisions with regards to their inventory may still find a lot of customers knocking on their doors, knocking on their website, but then they don't really have the right stock to sell, right? And when we look at it, all this highlights how much of an impact being agile and being aware of the situation and reacting quickly to it has made a difference to businesses.
Of course, it goes back to the three principles you were just talking about, I guess. I think what are some of the challenges that you're seeing support people, especially in the logistics and e-commerce space? What are some of the challenges that they're facing frequently, and how are they dealing with these challenges?
That's a great question. In fact, we haven't normally been speaking about it in these circumstances, but when you look inside businesses, the support or the customer support side of things is what has been seeing a huge change in the way they operate, right? They've been operating remotely, and certain businesses, their order volumes, etc., have been going through the roof. It's really hard for businesses to scale their support activities, right?
Of course,
and contributing even more to it has been a couple of hard facts, right? One is customers, when they're ordering things right now, they are mostly ordering things that they're desperately in need of. So that
Yeah,
means they're paying closer and closer attention to their orders. And when things don't reach them on time, or they have questions about their order, they're desperate, they panic for answers. The second part is also the shipping carrier networks. Obviously, considering the situation, they're under tremendous strain, they're short-staffed, and they're also still dealing with a lot of order volumes similar to what we may see with holiday shipping, etc.
of course.
So that means it creates a scenario where a lot more errors are creeping in, right? In fact, we are seeing delay rates to be about 15-20% in several parts of the country, right? That's considerable number. All this kind of comes back as problems to support teams, right? So a customer who's not able to get through to a support team, customer who doesn't have enough information about his order, he's going to blame the business for it.
Yeah.
So that's the amount of strain support teams are under. And even here, we are starting to see a clear difference between how certain businesses are being proactive and upfront in taking care of these issues. In fact, I was just having a conversation last night with pretty large customer who ships mattresses out of the US, right? So they have been pretty proactive in looking up how each individual shipping carrier is doing, right? They've been reaching out to us, understanding shipping carrier performance, and also getting proactive alerts on their help desk systems about which shipments require attention. So that preemptively lets their support team step in and take action, right? So the better businesses are looking out for their customers and always striving to ensure that their customers are kept aware of the situation, even with delays, etc., and keep them informed about issues ahead of schedule rather than letting them get into a state of panic after things have gone wrong. And the more business, I mean, we're actually seeing more businesses shift to a proactive approach because it means support teams are on their own schedule when they're addressing these issues rather than being put on a spot when a customer with an issue calls in, right? So using the data that they have available with them and also paying a bit more attention to what's happening to their shipments while they're in transit, that's really been making a difference to businesses in terms of offering better support to their customers.
Of course. So what you're also saying is customer centricity is key.
Exactly, right? Again, we were in conversation with a few of our more proactive customers. They come back and tell us, hey, in fact, the best investment we could be making at this point in time is to improve the engagement and the experience that our customers have. So it generates a lot of goodwill. They remember that we did a stellar job when they were in desperate need. And that obviously means a lot to us even after the situation is passed.
Yeah, that's very true. You always remember when you were in need of something and someone was there to help you, 100%. Well, to close, you mentioned earlier that you're a data-first company and you have the unique position of having a large data set to draw from. What are some of the unique insights that lateshipment.com can offer customers to help them benchmark and optimize their business processes, especially at this time?
So the moment this scenario started unfolding, right, this was a conversation we immediately had internally. In fact, we got together. One of the things we wanted to do as a business was to try helping the community out as much as possible, right? And that meant when we looked inwards, the biggest value that we were in a position to offer to the business community is the data that we hold about the last mile in shipments in transit. There are not a lot of other sources for that data. So when we looked at it, we wanted to set aside all priorities and kind of start measuring ourselves just based on how much value we were able to add to the community, setting aside traditional metrics like an ROI, et cetera, right? So that meant we started prioritizing features which were scheduled to go out later in our roadmap. Ability to intimate customers in real time about their orders in transit, right? Talk back to support teams about issues that certain shipments in transit were facing, giving businesses insights about what's happening within their industry, whether they're in line or whether their response has been in line with what their industry leaders are doing and so on. So transforming the data that we have with us about the last mile space into actionable information that goes back to support teams, customers, and also the business itself to align itself better during this time of need. That's what we've been focusing on. And Again, we sincerely believe being able to be available and offer a lot of help and support to our customers, not just our immediate customers, but also people who stand to benefit from the data that we have. We think setting aside all other metrics for the moment, it generates a lot of goodwill, and it certainly makes a difference to the business community as a whole. And we believe doing the right thing now probably generates a lot of goodwill for us later, right? Rather than any other perspective that we could take at this point.
Of course. And I mean, that kind of loops back to why we do this series as a whole, is to add as much value as we can to the community.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully people out there are listening and watching and really taking away a lot of important information.
Absolutely. Personally speaking, one of the biggest things that has been a positive coming out of this is the way the entire business community, right, be it Freshworks or be it lots of businesses that we work with, the amount of proactive effort they've shown, in being empathetic and being available, taking customer first approach, putting aside all other metrics internally. That, I think, speaks a lot about what businesses truly exist for, right? Sure, they're around to make a profit. Sure, they're around to be successful. But at the end of the day, at the heart of every business is the desire to see the community itself being successful.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for joining us, Sri. I learned a lot from this video. Is there anything else you'd like to add to businesses out there watching this?
This may be the fact that I share the same amount of hope that we're through this quickly and we get back to operating normal circumstances. And I sincerely hope, be it businesses, be it individuals, they're all healthy and safe through this thing.
Of course. Thank you so much.
Thank you.